Happy Tuesday, everyone. This video is for Unit 2, Lesson 6 on rational and irrational numbers on the number line. I'm sorry I'm out today. I did not plan to be, so I've got a recorded video lesson for you today. Just like in normal class, you should have your notes packet and a pencil out, and everything I write, you should be writing. Okay, you're in good hands. You're with Mr. Regan, so let's go ahead and get started. Today we have 3 learning targets. By the end of the period, you should be able to I can compare rational and irrational values. I can order rational and irrational values, like from least to greatest or greatest to least. And I can plot rational and irrational numbers on the number line. We've started doing this earlier in the chapter, and we'll get a little bit more practice with it today. Warm up, which one doesn't belong? There are 4 numbers shown in the table. Choose 2 of the values to write an argument for why it does not belong with the others. So all 4 of those numbers are very similar to the actual number they are and where they would be on the number line, but looking at them, they're all a little different. So will you pause here and pick 2 of them? Decide how are they unlike all the rest? Why don't they belong? Let's see what you wrote. 3.14 is a decimal. It doesn't keep going. It doesn't have a little bar above it, so it is a terminating decimal. It is the only terminating decimal out of the group. Then 22 over 7 is about a 3.14, but it's written as a fraction. It is the only fraction in the group. We approximate pi to be 3.14, but we talked about earlier that it keeps going. It's a crazy number. It's the only irrational with an I number in the group. And the first one and the last one look very similar, but the last one, 3.14 with that bar, means that it's 3.14, and it continues, which means it is the only repeating decimal. Make sure you have these written down in your table. Then use the numbers shown to complete the following, and we are sorting them into rational and irrational. We did this in yesterday's lesson as well. We put a star on that page. Each one of those numbers is similar to what you will see on Friday's test. Question 1, I'm asking you to find where they are on a number line. So it helps to know if they are rational and irrational. Let's start. The first one, 0.125, is a terminating decimal, so it's part of the rational group. Then -8, +8, 0, all of those are integers on the number line above the board. They are all rational numbers. The square root of -49. Well, 49 is perfect. I would ask you that one at the door. The square root of 49 is 7. Even though it has a negative in front, that just makes it -7, not +7. They're both integers, so they are part of the rational numbers. If that negative was underneath there in the radicand, we would not be able to solve it. And the cube root of -8. The cube root of -8 is -2. Because -2 times -2 times -2 gives you -8. So it would also be a rational number. And finally, rational means anything we can write as a fraction, so -13 over 3 would also be rational. All of the ones circled in blue are part of the rational number group because they include terminating decimals, integers, perfect squares, perfect cubes, and fractions. Also in that group, even though we don't see it, we would include repeating decimals, like 0.125 with a bar above it. Then the numbers that are left, the negative square root of 12 and -2 pi, both belong to the irrational numbers. 12 is not a perfect square. It's not a 3 times 3 or 4 times 4. The negative out front doesn't change that. 12 is not perfect, so it's an irrational number. And -2 pi, -3 pi, pi over 2, pi plus 2, 2 minus pi, anything that involves pi in the expression is always going to be an irrational number. Make sure you have those sorted, rational and irrational numbers. Then I'm going to use those same numbers and try to order them from least to greatest, and then plot them on the number line. When I plot them on a number line, they will automatically be in order from least to greatest because it'll be the smallest on the left-hand side and the largest on the right-hand side. Let's start with the one that's already a terminating decimal. 0.125 is going to be between 0 and 1 on a number line. 0.1 is going to be much closer to the 0, so right about here. When you label them on the number line, make sure you also label whatever number it's asking you for. So 0.125. This is just like question 1 on Friday's test. Then negative square root of 12, it's not perfect, we said, but I can estimate it. It's between the square root of 9, which is 3, and the square root of 16, which is 4. They're both negative because it's a negative 12, so it's between negative 3 and negative 4. 12 is closer to the 9 side, so we would say it's closer to the 3, maybe like a negative 3.4. So on the number line between negative 3 and negative 4, a little closer to the 3 side is where we would find the negative square root of 12. Then negative 8 is just an integer. I don't have to do anything with it. We know where negative 8 is. Negative square root of 49. So square root of 49 is 7. The negative out front just makes it a negative 7. Negative 7 is located on that little line there. So the negative of square root of 49 is there. Then negative 2 pi. If we know that pi is about a 3.14, then I'm going to do negative 2 multiplied by 3.14, which gives me negative 6.28. That's going to be between negative 6 and negative 7 on our number line. Negative 6.2 closer to the 6 side, so about there. Negative 2 pi. The cube root of negative 8 we said was rational. It's rational because it does give you the integer negative 2. Because negative times a negative times a negative gives me that negative 8. So if I'm finding it at negative 2, it is here, would be the cube root of negative 8. And finally, negative 13 over 3 is a fraction. I can divide it to make it a decimal or a mixed number. 3 goes into 13, 3, 6, 9, 12, so 4 times, with 1 left over 1/3. That would be negative 4 1/3, which as a decimal is negative 4.3 repeating. On my number line, that's going to be between negative 4 and negative 5. Negative 4.3 is closer to the 4 side, so about there. The fraction negative 13 over 3. Then, if I go back to the top question, order the numbers from least to greatest, that would be from left to right. So this first one, negative 8, then negative square root of 49, negative 2 pi, negative 13 over 3, negative square root of 12, cube root of negative 8, and finally 0.125. From least to greatest, they are left to right, which means the largest number is 0.125. It was the only positive number out of the group. Pause here if you're still writing. Complete the table by comparing each pair of expressions using the greater than, less than, or equal to sign. Then plot and label the expressions on the number line. Remember that this one that looks like the letter L is the less than, and this one that looks like the number 7 is the greater than. So square root of 36, we know that one, that's a whole number, that's a perfect square, that's 6. So obviously I'm going to plot that one right at 6. The cube root of 36 is not 6, because 6 times 6 times 6 doesn't give you 36, so it's going to be smaller than that. I know from notes last week that the cube root of 27 is 3, 3 times 3 times 3, and the cube root of 64 is 4. So 36 is going to be somewhere in between there, 3 and 4 on the number line. 36 is closer to the 27, so it's a less than 3.5. Let's estimate it to be about a 3.3. When I plot that on my number line, it's about there. Not sure where that 6 went, so let's put that back, square root of 36. Numbers that are smaller, less than, are left on the number line. So that red dot is smaller than the green dot. 3 is obviously smaller than a 6. So if I'm reading that question from left to right, the square root of 36 then is greater than the cube root of 36, because 6 is greater than about a 3.3. The square root of 89 is not perfect, but I know that it's bigger than the square root of 81, which is 9, and smaller than the square root of 100, which is 10. So it's between 9 and 10 on a number line. 89 is closer to 81, so it's going to be smaller than 9.5, and we could estimate it to be about a 9.4. 9.4 on my number line would be a little closer to the 9, so about there. Whereas 9.89 is already a decimal. 9.8 is going to be closer to the 10 side, so the red one is smaller than the blue one. So when we're filling that in, I can say the square root of 89 is less than 9.89, because 9.4 is less than 9.89. Pause here while you try these two. Turn them into decimals, plot them on the number line, and decide. Is the one on the left less than, greater than, or equal to the one on the right? In the first one, 9 divided by 2 gives you 4.5, or 4.5. That would be right in the middle on the number line between both 4 and 5. Whereas the square root of 23, bigger than 16, smaller than 25, so also between 4 and 5. It's definitely closer to the 25, so it's bigger than a 4.5, maybe a 4.8 or a 4.9. So if I had 4.5 and 4.8, the 4.5 is less than the 4.8. So 9 over 2 is less than the square root of 23. And the last one has pi in it. We know that we can approximate pi to 3.14. So if this is 3.14 plus 3, it's about a 6.14. Between 6 and 7, closer to the 6 side. 2 pi is 2 multiplied by 3.14. 2 times 3, 6. 2 times 14, 28. 6.28. Although it's also going to be closer to the 6 side, it's a little bigger. 6.14 is smaller than 6.28. So pi plus 3 is less than 2 pi. Okay, I did skip that last page in notes. That's fine. Go ahead, just cross it off. What should you do now? There is a new quizzes open first time today, so that's where you should start. I would use that page that we started yesterday, rational and irrational, as well as the notes that you took today. You need an 80% on that quiz. If you finish before the end of the period, Mr. Regan can sign off. He knows what he's looking for. If not, I can sign off tomorrow. If you finish with time left over, go ahead and work on anything that was missing from the 2 EdgeExcels and 1 quizzes that were available last week. If you already have those signatures and you're looking for something else to do, remember that you have iReady lessons for Module 2. There are 3 choices. You must pass 1. All of this homework will close Thursday at the end of class, so make sure that you are working hard in class and at home. Okay, have a good day. Don't get your name on that sublist, and I hope to see you tomorrow.